We're following the apparent collapse of a key U.S. ally in the fight against al-Qaeda. I want to go back to Congressman Jason Chaffetz of Utah. He's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, a leading voice on national security. Congressman, we know that AQAP, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which is based in Yemen, the chief bomb maker there, this guy named Ibrahim el-Asiri, is still very much at large, despite U.S. efforts to find him and target him and kill him, if possible, in Yemen. But he's very much at large right now. That the Kouachi brothers, the ones who killed all those people in Paris the other day, they trained in Yemen. Is it just a matter of time before AQAP strikes again?
Well, that's the worry. We worry about the intelligence we're able to gather in that part of the world. They have been expanding, they're attacking, going after the presidential palace. Does that mean that they can go and strike again into Europe or, heaven forbid, into the United States or anywhere for that matter? That's the deep worry. And so we don't have the type of intelligence gathering there that we needed.
We know that some of those ISIS terrorists are dispatching their fighters to specifically target Westerners. Mostly in the past, we always assumed ISIS was going after various locations in Syria and Iraq, maybe a few other places in the region. But now there seems to be a new strategy. Is that your understanding?
Well, that's what makes it so difficult to defend, is because it is widespread. You can do it with small groups of people, but certainly that message has been out there and been pervasive. You see their calls for those types of terrorist type of activities, and the world needs to come together. Let's identify what it is, and let's go after and get it. It is radical Islamic terrorism. Let's call it what it is, and let's go after it and get the job taken care of. And I think the world's coming to that conclusion. We can't mess around with this. We have to go out and capture these, and if not, kill these people.
We know that ISIS now is also demanding that Japan pull its support for the U.S.-led, the coalition airstrikes against ISIS in Syria and Iraq. They are demanding, these ISIS terrorists, $200 million for the release of 2 Japanese hostages. There you see some video. You see the 2 Japanese hostages on their knees. They're being threatened with death, beheading within 72 hours unless Japan pays $200 million. What's your reaction when you see this?
Well, that's what terrorists do. They try to inflict terror, and they're doing it upon the Japanese people and the rest of the civilized world. That's why you can have a no-tolerance policy. You have to call it out for what it is. We're going to have to come up with a global strategy. The United States inevitably is going to have to lead in that strategy. We need the president more engaged on this to make sure that we bring along the coalition partners in all corners of the world, from the Japanese to the Saudi Arabia, to the United Arab Emirates. I mean, you name it, we're going to have to bring people together and collectively fight and defeat this.
You've said that the United States, the Obama administration, so far has done, in your words, a terrible job bringing in other countries in this fight against ISIS. What other countries are you talking about? What else do you want the U.S. to do?
Well, we can talk, for instance, about no-fly zones and making sure that we have air superiority, which we can clearly have and can clearly do. But we also need to have the engagement of many of those in the Middle East who do not want to see the spread of ISIS, who can come to our aid and are in a position, not only financially, it's great when they pony up and spend the dollars, but they're going to have to actually help us with people and personnel and intelligence. We need that kind of help right now with the Iranian influence and what you're seeing playing out in Yemen. They too, the Saudi Arabias, the United Arab Emirates, they too have a very vested interest. It takes leadership to bring them all together and collectively fight and win this war.
So specifically, what countries do you want to be brought in to this U.S.-led coalition?
Well, look, we need everybody from every NATO ally that we can name. We also need people from the Middle East. We have fallen apart in Libya. That is nowhere to be found. Egypt is going to play an important part of this, but Saudi Arabia specifically has got a very vested interest that really needs to be lockstep with us every step of the way.
The suspected ringleader of this Belgium terror plot, this guy Abdelhamid Abaoud, is still at large. How important is he that he be captured?
Well, look, you have some great counterterrorism efforts there between the French and those in Belgium. I don't know where he is. If I did, I couldn't say it anyway, but I don't. But there are a lot of good efforts to try to capture this one individual. It is a web. You want to understand who are they been communicating with, who are they interacting with, who else is maybe in support of what they were doing there. And so I know a lot of effort is being placed into that, but I don't have an update for you, Wolf. I wish I did.
What would you like to hear from the tonight in a State of the Union address when it comes to the war on terror?
Look, I think this is one thing that the president can bring Republicans and Democrats together. I think the country is on edge. We've seen our friends and loved ones in Paris and other places that are been on the receiving end of a lot of this terrorism. The president has an opportunity to draw us together. I can tell you, I'm worried that the president can even identify what the problem is and call it out for what it is. I want him to demonstrate, not through just words in a speech before the State of the Union, but show us the action that he's going to take to bring this coalition and defeat ISIS. I doubt anybody could repeat what it is we're going to do to defeat ISIS other than, oh, let's just defeat them. It takes more than that. It takes action. It takes leadership of the United States. I hope we hear that from the president tonight.
But you're not supporting what the U.S. did for more than a decade in Iraq and in Afghanistan, send in tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of ground forces.
I would leave every option on the table, but the president has got to lead a coalition and bring people together and get others who have a very vested interest right there in their own backyard. That is not what we're seeing, Wolf. And I'm not suggesting or advocating that we put tens of thousands of American troops or boots on the ground, but what we can do in intelligence, what we can do with air superiority, what we can do in being a true leader and making sure that Turkey is fully engaged with us on all this. Those are the types of things that the United States can and should and must be doing.
Congressman Chaffetz, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf.